I've done goofed. I see you there. Having a physical everything. My VIP cohort, ready to lend an ear. I have to tell you something. I failed today. I observed a conflict going on. I was in a different function. Yet these two people, females, I'm going to keep it alias, they were having a conflict. And I just observed. And they were doing it in front of the lobby where people could see them. And they didn't take it to a room and talk about it professionally. One got angry and the other was there, not attentive. And it came to my mind, what was the one thing that was truly missing? And it was listening. We have to listen with intent, with empathy and concern that goes deeper. So we can use the conflict resolutions. That's one of my prior videos that goes into a step-by-step process of how to solve that. Yet if you don't have the ability to listen, all the stuff that I teach you is worthless. So we're going to dive in to listening and get the whole landscape in one go. So without further ado, I ain't going to fail you guys. We're going to put this to memory. We got to listen. So let's start. Just listen. The neuroscience of getting through to anyone. And this guy, Dr. Mark, was a hostage negotiator. So what he's saying does have applicable purpose. So when we're listening, what do we normally find? Or what we're trying to get across? There's normally two ways about going with this. We have the instinct to push harder, which then creates resistance, and we see the barricade here. And then we have the solution-based thinking, the surgical empathy, the one that creates a bridge to the right. And how they describe the instinct part is amazing. When we fail to connect, our instinct is to argue with logic and talk more. This creates more resistance, and then it throws the barricade. As if we go with the surgical empathy, the secret to getting through is not what you tell people, but what you get them to tell you. Everyone communicates. Few people connect. So stop trying to be interesting and be interested instead. What would that mean? Have curiosity and concern for the other party. So we're going to the brain. A hostage negotiator knows best. So we have the primate brain, the logic, responsible for reasoning, strategy, and complex thought. The prefrontal cortex type of thinking. Then we get into the mammalian brain, which is more of the emotions, responsible for feelings, bonding, and emotional processing. And then we have the big one, drum roll please, we have the reptilian brain. This is responsible for fight and flight responses. So, when the amygdala gets hijacked, when terrified, highly stressed, the midbrain boils over and shuts down the upper brain. Rational thought completely dies, and you can't reason with a person in that state. They're totally unreachable. So, empathy is that elevator. We need to get them out of the fight or flight into thinking higher conscious. So one, science. Humans are wired with mirror neurons that create a biological hunger to feel felt. In the regards, they want to know that someone's embracing and understanding. Two, the deficit. When others don't mirror how we feel. We suffer from mirror neuron gap, trapping us in the lower defensive brain. So pretty much if nobody's trying to meet us here, we're just going to resort back to the bottom. And then 3, the solution. The surgical empathy perfectly matches the counterpart's emotional state, satisfying the gap and pulling them up the elevator to the logical primate brain. Wow. So, okay, we're going from all F to okay in 2 minutes. So, first part, the S is hitting the fan. Disaster hits, identify the fear. The fear. So now we got that. So somebody's like, they said this mean thing about me, or they don't understand me. They should just understand. You're starting to understand their fears. Release. Oh God. Breathe deeply. To release tension. Recenter. Acknowledge the pain of fixing it. Oh geez. Refocus. Oh well. Shift away from ruin and ask, what can be done? Re-engage. Okay, let's take some action. The tactical secret is putting a specific word to an emotion. Instantly cools the amygdala and reactivates the prefrontal cortex. Pretty much our divine thinking brain. And that is the way to a greater life. So let's check your dissonance at the door. Dissonance occurs when you think you're coming across one way, but power dynamics and stress cause others to see you completely differently. The perception gap. Believing you are confident when others see you as arrogant. When you believe you're passionate, others see you're just impulsive. When you believe you're detailed, others see you nitpicking. You believe you're shrewd, others see you're sly. Others think you're strong. Others think you're just too rigid. Action step. The step of preemptive dissonance, diffusing openly and admit your potential flaws to neutralize them before they are used against you. Does this sound like any of you from the list that's been stated? Because in the regards, we have to look at the lens. We are too much fed into our ego, and I say with it, envy, that we can't disassociate from it and see how another would see us. When we take the lens of sight from another person, it changes the whole way we view things, and we are more cautioned to give our advice because we are not truly the best answer. We are just the best listener. The greatest advice that one can give you is that we have one mouth and 2 ears. So it implies that our ears should be listening more often than our words. And when we give up our words to be this, we are taking more authority. As crazy as it sounds. So, we went through those pros and cons of each type that we think in our lens. Now let's look at the persuasion cycle. The anatomy of buy-in. Or a better word, owning in. So 1, resisting. 2, listening. 3, considering. This is where the target mark is, from them being in their fight or flight to them starting to open up and now they're considering. Then 4 is they're willing to do. 5 is they're committed and they're doing. 6 is the feedback that they are glad that they did it. And then 7 is the lifetime value of them continuing to partner with you and do that thing. So the key takeaway here is you cannot force someone from resisting to doing. You must first guide them to listening through tactical empathy. Then they will start considering what you have. And that is great. So we have the Hoover framework. So this is just a quick thing that if you forget everything else, just recite this in the back of your head. So H, heard them out. Did you let them speak without interrupting or changing the subject? U, understood. Did you demonstrate comprehension by asking them to say more about a specific emotion, words, something that really connects them to how they feel? V, valued. Did you recognize their agenda to recognize what matters to them? And A, added value. Did you elevate their perspective without invalidating it? Execution rate. Yourself from 1 to 10 on each metric after your next high-stakes conversation. And I'm going to give you a real-time example of what I did and what I'll give my own feedback on from these two people. That's why I was so compelled of making this video today. Myself, I get a 0 because I didn't even come into that conversation. I observed to get this out onto a format. Yet, how I grade them, one of them was very going after, and I would grade her a 3. And the other person, I would grade them a 4. But the main thing that I saw that kept them from getting to a higher amount, where an acceptable margin would have been 8 or 7 or even 9, they weren't listening with intent as to what could be changed and how to really revel in what each other was feeling, and to come to a greater understanding of how to work together to get to that said thing. Because one thing that I find in my life is that, and maybe others can relate to this, we all too often are pouring gasoline onto a situation because we never want to poke the nest, dare we say. Yet we're keep pouring this fire until one day we light a match. And then all that gasoline that was built up there just turns it into a massive fire. And nobody can control it. That's what we have to be more vigilant on and start using better communication. So play 1, the empathy jolt. Diffusing the human explosion. Rule: anger and empathy cannot exist in the same place at the same time. Venting phase. High pressure, emotional volatility. The jolt. Identify. I'm trying to get a sense of what you're feeling. I think it's frustration, anger, fear. You get the gist. Is that correct? Measure. How angry or frustrated are you? Wait and let them vent fully. Trace. And the reason you're so angry is because... Alright. Resolve. What needs to happen for you to feel better and safe to have this conversation? So, let's take a look here. Identify. Firstly, they identify, okay, it looks like you're feeling something, and that's perfect. Then they say, because they're going to list the emotion, and now you have it labeled. How angry are you? Oh, I'm just angry. And the reason for you feeling that angry is because I made fun of you in that laugh. Oh, heck yeah, I hate that laugh that you got. And resolve. What would it take for us to have a conversation and feel better on this, where you don't feel uncomfortable? The resolve. And now they'll just be like, I need you to just stop that. Take it down a notch. I hear you. And let's look into that. Do you see how much better it is? Because they're now venting, and now they have a safe place to really go and do that. If I did this and took responsibility myself to sit in on this conversation and use this type of framework, I could have helped the conversation go away from a fighting fest and gossip to a resolution. And here's the point that I'm going to make. It wasn't those two females' fault. It was my fault. And I know some people will be like, what the heck are you saying it's your fault? You're doing your function and all that. But the reason is it's my fault because I knew these types of things and I didn't act. I didn't act. I had the conflict resolution in my head. I knew about listening and tactical empathy. I didn't know it from the exact sense. I did some research after this thing. Yet I didn't act. So I implore all of you, act. Even if it's not perfect. Say the words. Don't live with that regret. And if you have that regret, make amends with it and act in accordance next time. And if you say there is no next time, then make the next time. Whew. A little heaty. Sorry, I gotta close this for 1 sec. I had some sweat on my face. I didn't want you guys seeing me rubbing my whole entire face. Oh, 1 more sec. Ooh. Oh, man. There we go. Thank you. Play number 2. The impossibility question. Lowering defenses when an idea seems too risky. So lock 1. The question. What's something that would be impossible to do, but if you could do it, would dramatically increase your success? Key 2. What would make it possible? So, results. Shift the counterpart into opening and explorative mindset. Then, with the other part, result. Force the counterpart's primate brain to build a strategic roadmap for the very idea they previously resisted. So pretty much, here's the example. What's something that would be impossible for me to stop laughing? So it can increase your likelihood that you won't have to be feeling like you're being made fun of. What would make that possible? Can you spitball some ideas with me on that? So now we have the lock now of the laughing issue, and now we have the key that can go in there because now we're working together to find the solution. And that's a powerful word that needs to be brought up more often. Together. All too often, our egos go to I, me, and all this stuff. And sometimes we even say we. Just say, let's do this together. It gives them, I don't have to put the whole weight on my shoulders. A lot of people got Atlas on their shoulders. And here's the thing you always need to remember. We don't know what's going on in their situation. We hear it so many times. If you have to change the imagery of it, think that person has Atlas on their shoulders. Whether it be true or not is not the question. 1 sec. It's about thinking in perspective. From perception to perspective will change everything. All right, we have play 3. Fill in the blanks. Let them invite you in. Tactic. Stop telling people what they want. Get them to tell you what they want. Traditional pitching. Bouncing off defenses. So you have that wall. Fill in the blanks. Shifting from defense to collaboration. Here's the script. So now we can see this in action. You're thinking of buying our software or product. Psychology. Acknowledge they have a choice or choices makes them feel in control. Trailing off forces them to fill in the blank, mentally aligning them with your offer. I know it sounded weird. So pretty much I don't like how they put the script on this. I would say you have offer A, B, and C. And it seems like you're in deep thought as to which ones will go. What offers would be best suited for your needs? And then they start filling in the offer A and B. And then you'd be like, okay, offer A and B, we already have a pricing bracket for that. And the ownership rate of investment is about X. And then you move it along that way. Alrighty, we got play number 4, the stipulation gambit. Baring your neck, not your teeth. The tactic: neutralize your weak points by putting them on the table first. If you know there's something about you that triggers skepticism, express their exact misgivings aloud before they can. Example: I'm an experienced consultant, and no, I do not have an MBA or PhD. I know some of you believe that without these credentials. I must not know what I'm doing, but here is what I've learned. So, openly addressing your flaws neutralizes hostility, eliminates negative surprises, and forces the counterpart to mirror your poise and humility. Excuse me. So, I'm going to go back to the example with these 2 females. If the one that got angry is doing this and the person realized they really know they don't like my laugh, what I'm going to do is start the conversation off before they go in. I would just say, hey, may I? I know that I got that laugh that just might trigger somebody, and it builds up over time and it can come off wrong. I have to give you details that it's not to make offense to you. It's just how I am. And I mean that in all the best possibly I can. You see what I did there? I put it right on the table. I understood what they were feeling. And it now took the weapon away. And now they're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. They're already doing they're already accepting that that's the thing. And now, boom. Now you can go into conflict resolution. So navigating the extremes, knowing when to walk away. All right, let's start the song. Know when to hold on, know when to run. You gotta know difficult and versus toxic. So take what you get. And now let's begin. Bam. All right, so difficult people. Traits: stressed, reactive, feeling powerless, and defensive. Underlying need: the hunger to feel felt and felt. I know it sounds weird, but emotions is the greater understanding. Strategy: tactical empathy, the hoover, and the empathy jolt. Now we're going to some toxic people. The traits: coldness, lack of empathy, self-centered, and ruthless. Underlying need: exploitation and control. Strategy: set rigid expectations, offer no emotional vulnerability, and make as little room for them in your life as possible. So I'm going to go back to the 2 women that I've been talking about here. And this is going to be the craziest part. They both exhibited both the difficult person and toxic traits. So do not allow this to just say, well, they're just difficult people and these are just toxic people. You'll go way too hard in the labeling. The thing that you must do is see where their traits can go toxic in the conversation and where they can become difficult. Because the conversation is like water. It takes the flow of whatever shape it is. Now, the flow of the water may be more toxic than difficult, and then you have to identify that. And that's where you have to figure out what works best. And I call it like the blender theory. You just got to start throwing things together and see what works. Test the waters. I call it mocks. Keep doing it till it becomes second nature. So, from transaction to transformation. Who wants to do that? I don't know. I think I'm going to stay to the transaction part. I want to take from people and not impact anybody's lives, to transform them, to become better. I just want quid pro quo. Pause. If that was one of your thoughts, get out of here. We ain't doing that transaction life. We're going to transformation life. With this knowledge, we gotta become better. So, the problem. We default to quid pro quo in the transaction state. Is the highest state right now. Exchange, treating relationships like an encounter at an ATM. This does not open the mind or heart. That is very true. We're going to the bank account over the person. Pause. The goal and the impact. Shift to relating by asking questions to make the people look up and move beyond the surface level negotiations to unlock genuine lifetime loyalty. Lifetime loyalty. And why do we have that? Because we ask more questions. And we don't just ask the bland questions of how's the weather doing today? Or, best yet, we compliment their shoes. Oh, they're nice shoes. Now, don't get me wrong, complimenting your shoes is a great way to sometimes start a conversation. But where is the sustenance? Where can we talk about that word that you said? It really related to me because it just unlocked something that I never had inside of me. And that's where you need that fire welling up. And you gotta go after it. And mine is spinning a blizzard of change because the blizzard may blind us all, but change is inevitable, the permanence. And when we know death is on the next doorstep, because we are not immortal beings, we are mortal. Unless you are immortal, I don't know. We'll go into that subject later, but let's keep to the mortality here. We want to leave a life of impact and of joy and things that relate to us, and also become stronger and understand the decisions that we make are sometimes the tough ones, but doing the right thing is usually the best call. So the question, if my kids looked at me 20 years from now, what would they make what would make them proud of me? Ponder on that. 20 years from now, you have a child and you're thinking, today, how would you want them to see me so they're proud of me? Would they be proud of the example of me standing there not telling them, go into another room, let's talk this out, I'll act as a liaison, we need to get to the problem of this because it's not about work related, this is deeper stuff that has been rooted and we need to come together. I had that opportunity and I wasted it. Now, time will showcase it, and they'll probably maybe find this video. But I always think to C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien. They were great friends until they had to divide. They have differing ideas. One didn't like how the other did something. But they were great friends that went ideas off of each other. But because of that divide, they lost their friendship. And they became enemies. And then you know what the sad part is? At their deathbeds, they were probably thinking of each other. I don't want that type of regret, to be real with you. I want to live a life where if there's a relationship where I can recover and I can read books that can change my life and I can go after and make other people's lives better by entering in and providing a solution, by being courageous and knowing when it is just instead of just observing, that's a life well lived. Even when the life is tough at points, we continue onward with consistency. So the golden rule of influence: be interested, not interesting. Because being interesting is just our own ego, but being interested is us taking away the ego and caring about them. Everyone has an invisible sign hanging around their neck saying, "Make me feel important." We don't like feeling unimportant. Sincerity, surgical empathy are not soft skills. They are the ultimate tools for absolute influence. To get through absolutely anyone, you must first just listen. Poof. And that's the final slide. So, my VIP cohort. I'm going to take a few extra minutes here. And I know this is going on as a little longer of a video. Do not miss that opportunity to impact somebody's life if your words could actually help them. Because I failed at that today. And we all fail at points. But the most important thing is that we write it down, we reflect on it, and we go after tomorrow with that newfound sense of direction. I made this example today because I was very drawn in on this. It couldn't leave my mind, and it was so important. I said, it's important to get this out. I could not go to bed tonight without putting this out here. Even if it's just a recording state. Because I may have not been able to help them today, but having this video, they could go back and see what could have shifted the conversation. What things could I have done better? And with that newfound knowledge, could I have done different actions that rebuilt the relationship? And to both of them, if they do ever see this, or they probably will recognize if this picks off, I take full responsibility and accountability for that conversation. I should have entered. It is not on both of you. By having extreme ownership of the outcome, I was just observing. I should have been more. And all too often, that's where I fail. So when I fail, I will go back and I will rebuild myself stronger again and again until I am something more. And my accountability and responsibility doesn't hamper yours. You can take your own responsibility and accountability. And to the audience as well. When we do that, we are seizing our own lives. We are becoming the designers rather than default. And we all have our own lives to live. And to my audience too, I want you to hear this well. If you don't like something that I'm saying, forget it. Only take the things that you need, with one stipulation. By you forgetting it, will it harm you in the long run? Or will you come to regret it? If that is the case, just utilize it. That's all I ask. And you don't have to like me. Just take the content and use it and reform it to the best needs that you need it to do. Try to build a better life, challenge the norms, and become more. I believe in you. And if you don't know if someone's over your shoulder, let me be over that shoulder. If you need my words, use all the things that I've put out there and let it be over your shoulder, knowing full well that I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to give you the information so you can be a better judge of yourself, because the judge must be of ourselves. We must be so hard on ourselves to take more than what the world will give us, as Atlas is holding the world. He has a responsibility and accountability that is so mighty, yet everyone relies on him. Think of the idea of Superman. Same type of idea. But I think Atlas is cooler in that regard, because it's holding a globe. So just listen and make people feel important. And go out there and utilize this. Read, listen, associate, and apply. Have a great one. Deuces.